Our reading today is from the book, The Magic Presence, published in 1935. We pick up the story in chapter 3, titled Subterranean Marvels. We were introduced to an amazing invention, a radio that could pick up signals from any location on Earth, as well as on other planets. This device was invented by the now ascended Lady Master Leonora. Her invention possessed 3 fields of operation. In high, it reaches other planets of our solar system. In medium, it reaches anywhere on our own planet Earth, including the etheric belts. And in low, it reaches the interior of the Earth. Leonora sets the device to low setting, and in about 3 minutes, a deep voice was heard saying, "I recognize your call, and I am answering in person. This is Pelor, and I say it is interesting and encouraging to know that there are those on the Earth's surface who have some idea of the possibility that God beings can and do exist within the interior of the Earth. We here in the center of the Earth think we have less to contend with than you, for we do not have extremes of temperatures or seasons of heat and cold. We have the eternal white light, which is soft and restful. Our climate is very delightful, like that of the semi-tropics on Earth. Your America will one day have something quite similar." "We may not continue these observations further," Leonora explained. "At this time, other things demand our attention and service." Saint Germain saw and felt the unanswered questions in our minds as to why there were inhabitants in the center of the Earth and what kind of individuals they were, for the idea shocked us just the same as it does our readers. He studied us for a while and then said, "Yes, I will tell you the facts now, since the conditions and demand to know the truth are great within each one of you. The idea that the center of the Earth is a mass of fire is entirely erroneous. Within the crust of Earth, for a certain depth, there are conditions of the fire element acting, but within the center of the Earth itself, there are self-conscious individual beings who through many cycles of work and self-effort have mastered the control of certain forces to accomplish the fulfillment of the divine plan for that part of Earth. You must understand and remember that the ascended masters are instructing and assisting in all grades of the outer experience of life, in every condition found within and upon Earth, as well as on the planets of this system. Why should it not be perfectly natural, normal conditions that would permit some of their numbers to be the instructors of those who are working with the forces at the center as well as at the circumference of the planets?" And this ends our reading from the Magic Presence. May all who hear it be blessed with its true meaning. As we begin our journey into subtler states of consciousness, ponder for a second the use of thought forms to travel through the kingdoms of the elementals. First, center in your heart. See the thought form of a cosmic ovoid of light surrounding your physical heart. This ovoid is qualified with a special quality, a gift from our beloved Pelor, to expand your awareness and sensitivity to all elemental life. Feel the elementals all around you, for they desire for you to see them as much as you desire to see them. Next, move your awareness to the back part of the heart over the spine and feel a sensation between your shoulder blades. A mighty gift from the mighty sylphs of the air. See a pair of etheric wings begin to unfold from that point in the spine. See them grow and grow and grow until they spread out to a span of 15 feet across. Now use your etheric wings. Flap them a little bit. Get used to the concept of them. And now use them to lift off. A little bit at a time, rise above, flap the wings as the sylphs do. And now take off, lift off. See yourself flying through the air, gliding free as a bird. You glide effortlessly, moving at incredible velocity. You can turn on a dime. You soar across America, from place to place, city to city, forest to forest, until the tall peaks of the Rocky Mountains come into view. What a breathtaking sight. Your awareness is drawn to the top of one of the high, snow-covered peaks. You see a brilliant radiation of the 7 rays of God pouring out across the planet. Fascinated with this great light, you touch down at its point of origin. And as you do, you come upon a retreat with jeweled, rainbow-colored, crystalline walls. Standing in the doorway, you encounter a great, majestic being of light who is 8 feet tall, and his fragrance is the essence of pine. He steps forward and embraces you, saying, "I am God Tabor, God of the mountains. I govern the mountain ranges of North and Central America, and am one of the great guardians of treasures and blessings untold. And I have drawn your solar awareness here because I desire to tell you that we of the Great White Brotherhood are very concerned about the burden upon elemental life. And I, Tabor, have come with the angel devas of the mountains and of the pines of East and West, of the Rocky Mountains and of the Himalayas, of the Alps and of the Great Pyrenees and the Andes. These winged, radiant beings are the guardian spirits of the mountains and the forests. They keep balance of the mighty forests tall upon the mountains and hillsides of life, even holding the balance of the intensity of mankind's own effluvia in the cities of the world. Beloved one, never forget the importance of elemental life to the planet. And remember that every single manifestation in nature is presided over by elementals. There is no flower growing anywhere, not even a blade of grass, that does not have an elemental presiding over it. And where you see barren planets, where there is nothing, the elementals simply could not survive because they had no sponsorship, not even from one single solitary son or daughter of God. So the Lord has entrusted the earth into your care as his sons and daughters and given you dominion over the earth. I say, let earth send forth the praises of the glory of the Lord. Let fire and air rejoice. Let the waters tremble with the music of the spheres. The earth declares the glory of the Lord as it rings out. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and all they that dwell therein. O blessed Sheila, heaven waits for the alignment of your body and for the desire to wax strong within you, to receive the Holy Ghost, that you might be transformed and walk the earth as a master of life, to perform those feats that were performed by old, of Elijah, Elisha, by Enoch, by Christ. I ask you, would you walk upon the water?
Yes, yes.
Do you know that the water desires to have you walk upon it? Do you know the thrill of the elementals, the mighty undines, who guard the tides of life and the great seas and the waters under the seas and the great flow? Do you not know that they rejoice in mankind's rejoicing in his communion with water? Their joy is to serve the mankind of earth, and your joy must be to serve with them, to command the life essence of the Christ, to flow to the elementals, to infuse them with rejoicing and newness of being and fire and the spirit, to bring the earth into a golden age. And with that, Tabor waves at you to follow him as he soars skyward, your solar awareness tuned by the exercise of etheric wings soars into the air at the side of Tabor. You fly among the cloud formations, gliding along at God Tabor's side. It is a most glorious and exhilarating experience. You approach clouds that look like sculptures of angels. These are the air elementals known as sylphs, explains Tabor. They can look like clouds, sculptures, or anything else they desire, since it is in their nature to expand and contract their substance rapidly. They can change their size and shape to whatever form they desire. So one moment they are no bigger than your thumb, and the next moment they are expanding their beautiful figure to fill a large portion of the sky. Your gaze turns upon the female sylphs. They are a type of fairy with bodies that are very curvaceous and beautiful faces of purity with long golden hair. You witness their incredible agility. They travel across the sky very quickly, and as they do, they execute the most graceful and beautiful ballerina-like movements as they dance through the atmosphere. Tabor continues. The sylphs are the bearers of the prana of the Holy Spirit, the very life breath of the soul. They stand with the Lord Mahachohan as he breathes the breath of life into the newborn soul. And when you think of the tremendous power of the wind, even as the wind of the Holy Spirit, you ought to consider how much power can be wielded by the elementals who control the currents of the air. Some among humankind have perceived their power and have supposed that they are angels. However, explains Tabor, the angels have a fire body of greater light than do the sylphs. This is because the angels are vested with the power of eternal life, whereas the precious sylphs are, as is all elemental life, possessed with a temporary manifestation of divine intelligence, which is shed one day and returned to the great central sun for repolarization. As you dance through the air with the sylphs, you follow them towards the west coast. As you approach the major cities of the northwestern United States, you are amazed at your newfound sensitivity to subtler states of consciousness. The first thing you notice as you look down is what looks like a black, dense soot. Tabor explains, this is the accumulation of human discord, mass karma, hate and hate creation, generated by the ungodly and the ignorant. As the sylphs come upon this human creation, they rush to surround this effluvia, and as they do, they begin to absorb these negative human attitudes and qualities of discord into themselves. You see them start to darken in color, and they become visibly uncomfortable. Immediately they seek to transmute this pollution. The easiest method they have, if they don't have the seventh ray action of the violet flame, is to use centrifugal force and a whirling action to dissipate this misqualified substance. So they whirl and whirl and whirl in the atmosphere to throw off this substance of mortal consciousness. And as they continue to whirl faster and faster in the air in an almost fierce dervish-like dance, they whirl so fast that great winds and storm clouds develop in the atmosphere. That's the power behind the tornado. So while mankind think that these adverse weather events are all acts of God, they are in reality the actions of humankind. It is mankind himself who is responsible for the wind, for the cyclone, for the tornado and the hurricane, for the storms at sea, for the hail and the ice and the snow. Tabor reminds you that this is why it is important for you to give heartfelt prayers of gratitude to the sylphs, calling for their protection from dark forces that would manipulate their abilities, while invoking the violet flame to quell the storms. The sylphs take off again. You follow the elementals of the air as they come to a spiral highway of light that connects the four vibrational planes of the earth. It is a portal between the physical, astral, mental, and etheric octaves. You enter the highway with them, spiraling to higher and higher levels of the mental belt, and then the etheric octave. As you exit the spiral highway, you see Ares and Thor's retreat. Tabor says that this is where the captains of the sylphs, who have earned a threefold flame, are training the less developed air elementals and the sons and daughters of God to work together. No time to stop here, says Tabor, as you continue heading towards the isles in the Bering Sea off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in eastern Russia, lying in the Northwest Pacific. The sylphs wave goodbye as they motion you to continue on to the island up ahead. You arrive at the destination, and as you do, you hear a fiery sound resonating in the ethers. You come to what could only be described of as an etheric city. We are at the etheric retreat of Prince Arameses and Diana, says Tabor. Entering, you are greeted by thousands of tall and majestic, fiery elementals. You stand in awe in their presence as these fiery beings are blazing the full orb splendor of the rainbow rays of God in all directions. You see not only the 7 rays, but iridescent colors you have never seen before. These salamanders stand 9, 15, and some tall as 50 feet high. These taller ones are the mighty adepts of great attainment, are the captains in the hierarchy of the salamanders. They stand before you as pillars of scintillating, spiraling, sacred fire, continually spinning rainbow rays that engulf their dazzling, fiery beings. It is difficult to focus on their form as their appearance is constantly changing. You see only now and then facial features or what you would identify as a form within the flame. The whole scene before you looks like a large, towering fire sweeping through a forest. And as you stand in their midst, God Tabor says, if you will allow it and affirm it, they desire to enter your force field. So, beloved one, will you welcome the fiery salamanders into your aura now? Give your answer silently in your heart. One of them now hovers a few feet over your head, and with a flash like a lightning bolt, you're engulfed in a sea of white light, a sea of sacred fire that pulsates, boils, and explodes around you. The salamander now comes closer and closer to you, and the white light begins to turn in a clockwise spiral. You are standing in a fiery, whirling vortex, which is actually a rising flame of intense sacred fire. You hear a mighty rushing wind. You feel a great heat penetrating your being. This is the heat of transmutation, the result of the burning up of misqualified substance. The white fire sea around you begins to spiral faster and faster. This creates a prismatic effect, dispersing the white light to the various colors of the 7 rays. You see spirals of purple, orchid violet, indigo, blue, emerald green, golden yellow, and pastel pink. Its dazzling light penetrates your form, entering each of your 4 lower bodies with a pulsating action, pulling and consuming with it misqualified substance. And as this effluvia moves upward, it is drawn into the great central sun magnet for repolarization. You feel a lightening of burden, a consuming of records of impure desire and imbalance. You're experiencing a certain level of healing and the burning up instantly and on the spot of all manner of records and discarnates. The salamanders are the alchemists among alchemists, say Tabor. So, blessed Chila, as this fiery one renders a service of incomparable magnitude to your life stream, be grateful for the sacred fire. Be grateful for all elemental life, for the fiery salamanders who are the leaders wherever they go. I tell you a precious secret, says Tabor. Now, if you have heard and paid attention to the continual calls of the messenger, Guru Mar, over the years, you have heard a singular phrase day after day, and it is this: burn through, burn through, burn through. Have you wondered why? It is because this is the command for billions of fiery salamanders to go forth to any condition you name. Understand that a long time ago, a prayer went forth from the heart of your beloved Guru Ma to the karmic board. She prayed for a solution for all souls, as she felt there was little hope for life streams on earth to advance forward in evolution. She perceived that souls were being continually trapped and falling in the old records and the old momentums of evil that literally layer the streets and the hillsides of the world. The lords of karma gave the messenger a simple solution: a fiat to call forth the sacred fire itself through the simple command, burn through. Each time this fiat is given as a command to these beings of fire to go forth and clear the records of mankind's karma. When you give your fiats, exhorts Tabor, really command their fire by saying, in the name of the world mother, I command the captains of the salamanders to send forth your troops to burn through, burn through, burn through, burn through all ancient records of the fall of the fourth, fifth, and sixth root races. Burn through all ancient black arts, satanic rites. Burn through all hexes and curses that imprison elementals. Burn through for the deliverance of the lost sons of Seth. Burn through the cause, effect, record, and memory of these records. In answer to these calls, the fiery salamanders instantly spring forth into action. What a gift to have such a powerful tool at my disposal, you think. Now you follow the salamanders as they enter the spiral highway of light in a descending direction, down through the mental belt, down through a number of the layers of the astral plane. One of the salamanders directs your attention towards the ocean, and with that, she waves goodbye. As your awareness focuses below, you hear the sound of the most beautiful melodies and harmonies resonating over the waters below. And as you come closer to the ocean below, you see a large group of water elementals. You are enthralled by their beautiful singing voices, so you follow these nature spirits of the water world, who are known as undines, term that comes from the Latin root unda, which means wave. They closely resemble humans in appearance, except that their hair is a rich hue of glossy green, like seaweed. They are dressed in leaves twisted from the blossoms of subaqueous plants and sea anemones. The majority of undines are around 10 feet tall, and they laugh and play in and between the ocean waves. However, some of the undines are very tall, over 100 feet high, that tower over the waves. These mighty undines are in charge of protecting areas where there are hurricanes, storms, or where the sea may rise up to overtake the land and people's homes. You are attracted to a group of undines off to the right. These undines are elusive but enchanting in the form of supple mermaid-like beings. These beautiful undines have inspired many a tale of romance between the human and elemental evolutions, explains God Tabor. The ancient legends tell that by intermarrying with humans, that elementals can cross over to the human kingdom. Tabor explains that crossing over from one kingdom to another is a known phenomenon, and the race memory of this goes back to the myths of Lemuria and Atlantis. However, it happened mainly during times when elementals were closer to the physical plane. It also happens in certain isolated cases when a particularly precious elemental, by excelling in service, is given a dispensation. Hierarchy allows this one to cross over into the human kingdom and receive a threefold flame. Though this is a rare occurrence, there are some notable examples. The Ascended Master Funwei, for instance, under Uriel's tutelage, made his ascension. Also, there was once a tiny elemental charged with keeping the responsibilities of life in a simple field upon a planetary body, and who today is the mighty Archangel Michael, Prince of the heavenly hosts. The more frequent scenario of this phenomenon of crossing over from one kingdom to another is that elementals cross over to the animal kingdom. Here they can serve mankind through the highly intelligent species such as elephants, whales, porpoises, and even particularly loving and responsive dogs or horses. You have heard of the great intelligence of porpoises and whales and how they have rescued man. These blessed elementals cast in the body of these fish are highly evolved undines of great magnitude and intelligence. There is a darker side to crossing over, explains Tabor. Elementals can be imprisoned in lower animal forms or genetically engineered animals by black magicians, fallen angels, and laggard scientists. And once captured, the elemental must do exactly what the master tells him. Can you imagine what it is like to be an undine or fiery salamander or a sylph and be imprisoned inside of a dark force field, a matrix that forces you to go out and kill life and destroy children, to work against the flowers in the natural order of things? Thus, it is crucial to invoke the legions of Archangel Michael and mighty Astrea to cut free the imprisoned elementals and to command Helios and Vesta to draw them up into the great central sun magnet to God's heart for repolarization and realignment with his mighty will. The Dark Ones no longer had elemental life in their servitude. They would be bereft of those whom they have used and abused for hundreds of thousands of years and more. This being the case, millions upon millions of fiery salamanders, sylphs, undines, and gnomes would be able to carry a greater portion of life and light. This would bring the earth into balance and a new day. Your attention turns to another group of undines in the distance, and as you move closer to these ones, you see they are in the form of beautiful whales. One of them motions you to follow. And with that, they take a deep dive under the ocean. You follow them, diving deeper and deeper, following the group of undines to subterranean levels. Reaching the ocean floor, you see a great door. This is Neptune's locker, says one of the beautiful whale undines. And this gigantic door is the gateway to the center of the earth. You see, she has a large key on a chain around her neck. It is a very ornate and heavy key. And as the undine intones a certain pitch, the key levitates through the water, placing itself in the keyhole and unlocking the door. And as the great door opens, the undines swim into the gigantic doorway. You now pass through the beautiful sea of violet flame. It is greater than any sea you have ever beheld. It is a sea of pulsating, brilliant violet scattered with deep purple droplets throughout. As you follow the undines to the center of the planet, they lead you to a place where the violet flame sea rolls up on a very large continent the size of Australia. They motion you toward the land. As they wave goodbye, you head to the shore ahead. Waiting on the shore are a large group of earth elementals. They embrace you and motion you to follow them. Leading the way are mighty gnomes. Staunch they are as mighty foot soldiers, but at the same time gentle and merciful in their actions. These are those who have gone on in great attainment, who therefore have sustained themselves for thousands of years. These gnomes are God-free, who come from the great halls of the Mountain King, were heard by the composer Grieg when he composed his famous piece. Other elemental gnomes follow behind them that range in size from 3-inch high elves who love to play in the grasses to 3-foot dwarfs such as those depicted in the story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. These are the more ordinary elementals whose lifespans are no greater than human lifespans due to the fact that they do not have a threefold flame. They look like small dwarf-like beings with characteristics similar to humans, and they march in groups with their families. There are fathers and mothers similar to human families, even grandfather and grandmother elementals. It is important to remember, says Tabor, that until they earn that threefold flame, they must rely on your heart flame, for they depend upon the altar of your heart as they depend on the altars of God's heart and upon the unfed flame. I tell you, says Tabor, these gnomes are self-sacrificing to the nth degree, even denying their own evolutionary fulfillment in order that they might continue and man may continue to have opportunity and a platform for evolution. So remember, it is not just your family and your children who depend upon you, but potentially millions of elementals who depend on your heart flame. As you continue on, the terrain becomes very mountainous. You come to a deep gorge with walls rising over 2,000 feet on each side. It is a long, arduous trek, and as you march side by side with the gnomes, you see some of these little gnomes are walking as hunchbacks. Tabor explains that they bear such a great weight, mankind's karma, that the gnomes themselves take on mankind's burdens, even mankind's ways. And due to this tremendous burden, they become overworked and, like humankind, can become listless and tired. So now you understand the density of gnomes that was depicted in Snow White, the seven dwarfs, who each had an impediment, being grumpy or sleepy or bumbling or dopey, all due to the burden of mankind's weight that they carried. You finally come to the end of this crevasse and enter a valley situated in a giant chamber of light, many miles wide and high. There is a sun overhead radiating a continuous gentle light, which is soft and restful, providing perfect illumination and an atmosphere that is always of equal pressure and harmonious to all who live within it. The climate is very delightful, like that of the semi-tropics on Earth. You bask in the warmth of this sun, which is called the sun of even pressure. This is a place where gnomes can come to get a temporary respite from humankind's karmic burden. The entire valley is green and lush and beautiful as a Garden of Eden, even as a Lemurian paradise. You see thousands of exquisite flowers and fruits that have burst forth from the ground below that you've never seen on the surface above. They are tended by the tiniest beings of nature, the little devas and nature spirits. This natural beauty is enfolded by peaceful and harmony, as all centers around the meditation upon the sun of even pressure. You come to a magnificent palace of white marble with touches of delicate violet, green, and electric blue. A large golden dome covers a central portion of the roof. As you enter the palace grounds, you see that it contains a clear crystal pool and marble fountains. There are the most beautiful gardens surrounding the palace. There's an abundance of roses and statues representing the height of the culture of every age. As you approach the entrance, you are greeted by the most glorious gnomes who motion you to pass. As you follow the god of the mountains into the palace, you see that the interior is white also, with decorative touches of various colors. The council chamber is in the center under the large dome. This chamber has a beautiful large circular jade table with veins of gold running through it. There are concentric circular rows of seats moving outward around it. They accommodate several hundred people. The hierarchs of the elements are sitting in the inner circle of chairs as you arrive. You follow God Tabor to a seat in the outer circle. Other unascended chelas are arriving with their guides and taking their seats as well. One of the radiant beings at the council table says in a very deep voice, "Welcome to Pelor's realm. I am Pelor, known of old by elemental beings as the hierarch of earth. I ensoul all elemental life, even your body elementals, and the physical form you wear. I bear this flame with my twin flame, the Earth Mother Virgo, who sits by my side." Your attention focuses on Virgo. You see in her the true beauty and tenderness of the Earth Mother as a representative of the cosmic virgin. She has very long, flowing, glossy, chestnut brown hair that seems to float and curl as if it were weightless. She is wearing an elegant dress that shimmers with colors and flower patterns that are constantly changing and blooming with various flowers. She holds a sheath of golden wheat in her left hand. The wheat is full of seeds, the symbol of the power of multiplication and abundance. And under her right arm is a horn of plenty, a cornucopia, a hollow horn filled with inexhaustible gifts of celebratory fruits, of pomegranates, apples, oranges, bananas, and the fruit of the vine. Pelor now introduces you to the others. He first points to the most stunning, ethereal, and gossamer cloud-like beings you have ever seen, each having huge, iridescent, sparkling wings. Pelor says, "This is God Thor and Goddess Ares, the hierarchs of the air elements and rulers of the mental belt. Thor carries as his scepter of authority a large, golden hammer studded with sapphires. This he uses for the protection of mankind. Next to him is the regal, ascended Lady Master Ares, who is the mother of millions and millions of sylphs who serve humankind daily and hourly. She has the most beautiful, long, flowing golden hair and sapphire blue eyes. Next to them, says Pelor, are the hierarchs of fire, rulers of the etheric plane. They appear to be engulfed in pillars of flame. And as Pelor introduces them, the flames begin to dissipate, and you can see they wear royal crowns of a white and crystal radiance. Prince Arameses is carrying a scepter that looks like a very long bolt of fiery white lightning. Princess Diana, seated next to him, is a Buddha-like being. She floats in the air on a fully open lotus of blazing white fire. Her name is taken from Dhyani, for she is the mother meditating upon the fire of the Buddhas on behalf of all of our children and all elementals. Finally, next to them are the hierarchs of the water elements, rulers of the astral world. This is King Neptune, says Pelor. He is very tall. He has a white fire beard and a body with well-developed muscles, carries a huge three-pronged spear that bears the emblem of the fleur-de-lis. This trident is a manifestation of the power of the deep and his scepter of authority, a symbol. It is a symbol of the threefold flame of the action of the Christ consciousness. With his trident, Neptune is able to create water elements to control any body of water and to quell storms and tidal waves. Next to Neptune is his consort, Luara. She is the mother of the tides, governing cycles of fertility in the water element as it affects the emotional body and the collective unconscious of the race. Luara instructs us in the mastery of the emotional body, teaching us how to be washed in the living waters of the word of life. Pelor says that we have already heard this weekend from our beloved hierarchs of the air, fire, and earth. We will now hear from our beloved Neptune, who has come also to release a special dispensation. He will place a very special key in your hand.
gonna go over a little bit here, quite a bit. I'm sorry? Yes. No, right now, it's gonna end tomorrow. Last step. Say what I'm gonna do with it tomorrow. Just say it, because we'll announce the next thing when it's time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to be invited to this altar, that we might grace it with our presence and receive you. In the name of all Undines, then be seated. We are Neptune and Luara. We come then for the purification of the waters of the earth, the waters of the emotional bodies, of all souls incarnated and those on all levels of being. Our service then also relates to the astral plane, where the desire body moves as the tides of the sea. Let me then take from you first of all a certain presupposition which is inaccurate, that all Undines live in the sea, and that many Undines live in the bodies of fish. Some Undines overshadow entire species of fish, overshadow them to the extent of becoming one with them and assisting the evolution, the forward evolution of life imprisoned in these forms. Other Undines, beloved, do move upon the land. They move in all octaves. They have considerable adeptship, and like other elementals, in past ages, some Undines have crossed over into the human kingdom, and therefore have become a part of it. Thus, those who are the sons and daughters of God are the shepherds of all elemental life, and sometimes the children of God have intermarried with one or the other branches of the elemental kingdoms, and thus evolution has continued. It is often difficult for mortals to understand how beings of nature can inhabit nature and yet eventually take over human form. There were ages when this was possible, and there are many upon earth who have shared in the elemental kingdoms as well as the angelic kingdoms. Thus you see, it is not only the purification of the water element that we are about, which situation in this day is surely a desperate one, as so many among earth's evolutions do not have water that is suitable for drinking or for maintaining the balance of that element in the body. However, beloved, as grave as this crisis is in the earth today because of major pollution, the crisis of pollution of the emotional bodies of mankind is far greater. for the crisis has reached such an extent that a high percentage of those living upon earth have degrees of insanity, two major forms of insanity, for the very pollution of the four lower bodies and the inability of the soul to harmonize with the mind, the brain, and all aspects that make up the individualization of the God flame. Thus, beloved, there are mighty undines who lead other legions of undines for the purification of the levels of the astral plane and of the bodies of every single evolving soul upon the earth. When you think of this task, beloved, before you become too alarmed, I should tell you that it is by the grace of Saint Germain, Omri Tas, and other hierarchs of light that there have been sent to this planet reinforcements in each of the four branches of the elemental kingdom. Alas, then, you find in this place a greater purity of air and water and of land, and also of the mind of those who are spiritually inclined. For it has been seen that those who even live in the purest places upon earth, if their minds are not clean, will themselves pollute those areas with the impurities of the mind. And so, beloved, various hierarchs have come to you pleading for the use of the violet flame on behalf of elemental life. Omri Tas has given you 48 hours each month. So you understand what the violet flame can do, but we come again to tell you that the undines who have not immortal life, save those who have reached the levels of adeptship and have bonded to Christ and therefore have received a flame, these are hierarchs who are part of the etheric octave, yet guiding those undines who are at lower levels. Those ones then who have that flame, they lead other undines, and there is such a great necessity for a violet flame unto these elementals, since they serve tirelessly, unceasingly, sacrificially, that mankind might continue its course, that people might yet have life, that they might yet have the necessary balance of food, of water, of elements in their bodies, that there might yet be a resonance between humanity and the Christ consciousness. The balance then of the elements in the four lower bodies and in the psyche is something that elemental life must be concerned about, and so they are directed by their hierarchs. These blessed servants then serve without a threefold flame, and yet almost as though they had that flame, yet they cannot be empowered with that flame until the sons and daughters of God rise up and bind the black magicians and the fallen ones who abuse elemental life. As you see the abuse of animal life as well as human life on earth, you understand that the elementals must rise and accelerate to a new level of being before they can be entrusted with a threefold flame. And therefore, the hierarchs of these kingdoms, and many in our service, do supply that very element. We supply the threefold flame on behalf of those who serve and those who are coming out from under the oppression of the fallen ones. Think of the pollutions of the rivers of the earth, of the waters under the earth, and of the seas in our time. Think then again of the rising and sinking of continents, of cataclysms, of the misuse of nuclear energy, and of all forms of toxic wastes that have been dumped in the planetary body, necessitating cataclysm, and therefore for the washing of the continents, for the purification, for the restoration, for the bringing in of new dispensations of a new era. It is for the reason of pollution, at least it is a major reason, that there is cataclysm in the earth at all, for life cannot continue, else we shall have aberrations. We shall have coming forth from the womb those babies that no longer resemble human beings. This is the possibility of the mutations that can occur upon Earth when these radioactive elements come into the womb, come into the body, come into the mind and brain, and thus actually eventually alter the genetic code endowed in human life through the original Adam and Eve. For they surely were the original ones who set forth the archetypal image of what man could be, of what woman could be. Thus Maitreya's mystery school brings not only twin flames of God full circle, but also elementals who were there at that hour and who were there for the sponsorship of the earth body and the bodies of those twin flames whose karma and calling necessitated that they descend from higher octaves to the etheric level. Maitreya's mystery school could therefore have been unto this day a mystery school in the etheric octave, a place which you long for and think about and remember as having the great golden age civilizations and the mystery schools. But, beloved ones, for going astray and following the fallen angels, there was a gradual descent to lower and lower planes of being until you find yourself here and now at this level. There are levels below this level, yet they have not become entirely physical. I speak of the astral plane and the planes of death and hell. Yet, beloved, the pollutions of the earth body and the bodies that you wear at the level of the earth body as it is today are becoming so intense that there is certain concern, grave concern, amongst the Elohim and the hierarchs of the elementals and the chiefs of the elementals and the angels and the devas who guide and teach and comfort and support them. Therefore, we are gratified that the Darjeeling Council has called for this conference, that you might dedicate yourselves with violet flame on behalf of the elementals, clearing them of the records, the hexes and the cursings, the imprisonment of themselves in the service of the Dark Ones. If the Dark Ones no longer had elemental life in their service, they would be bereft of those whom they have used and abused for hundreds of thousands of years and more. The understanding that these are like lost children who have fallen through the cracks should be upon you. Whereas angels maintain a tie to their hierarchs of light, elementals also maintain that tie, yet we maintain it for them. They are the only ones of Earth's evolutions who do not inherit the flame of immortality except by sponsorship of an ascended master or an adept of the Great White Brotherhood. These elementals then have no Christ consciousness of their own, but the Christ consciousness and the flame of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has given to them the certain momentum of resurrection's flame, that they might know that one day they too shall have and inherit eternal life. And you also know that this shall come about when you yourselves have expanded that flame and become masters walking the earth, and therefore could sponsor elemental life, millions of elementals, by the uniqueness of your own threefold flame. Life then awaits the maturation of humanity. It awaits the self-realization and the self-liberation of the sons and daughters of God. These sons and daughters of God are shepherds, not only to angels in embodiment, not only to the children of the earth, but also to the elementals. Thus, beloved ones, to call to beloved Omritas and to call to the great central sun magnet to once again magnetize all elemental life to that central sun. This is indeed a high cause, a holy calling. Indeed it is. Let us understand, therefore, that many valiant souls in the earth who are not tied in an outward sense to the Great White Brotherhood are yet taking their stand and defending elemental life, defending every form of animal life sponsored by elementals. Yes, beloved, where there has come into being a kindness, a sense of nonviolence and a peace, that is truly in the right direction. Ultimately, Many elementals are imprisoned in animal forms, and this should not be, and one day they will have their liberty from being thus imprisoned. And so you see, we are in an interim period on planet Earth, the interim period when those life forms that are not complete in the sense of having the manifestation of man and woman, yet those life forms persist. And those life forms are not made in the image and likeness of God, and yet they are made and created by certain levels of angels, and not in the allegiance of God, who determined to use the genetic code and the genes of a higher life and to imprison that gene and that code in the lower life of animal forms. Subsequently, these animals have evolved according to their environment, according to the necessity of the climate and other factors. And so that elemental life, because it is made of God's life and yet imprisoned in a lower matrix, yet evolves toward God. Yet it is the consciousness that evolves toward God, even though there may be changes over long periods of time in the bodies of animal forms themselves. And so you can see that even in the creation of certain levels of the animal kingdom, there is an imprisonment of the elementals, and these may be undines or sylphs or gnomes or salamanders, and therefore Earth may be seen as an experimental laboratory, a laboratory that was chosen by Nephilim, fallen angels, and laggard scientists who had the knowledge of genetic engineering long before they arrived upon this planet 500,000 years ago. They considered it an ideal place for their experimentations, for the entertainment of themselves or for their low-life living, where they required or thought they required the partaking of animal blood or even human blood. Human sacrifice has passed from these times for the most part, yet it is still practiced unbeknownst to the vast majority of the population. Yet, beloved, these fallen ones created animal life and sustained it upon earth, principally for the purpose of being able to drink blood, not blood of humans, but blood of those animals closest to humans, because they themselves had engineered them partially from human genes. This is a very complex subject, but what it boils down to is that life is imprisoned on planet Earth. And insofar as you allow yourself to be the prisoner of your own karma, your own electronic belt, your own dweller on the threshold, can you say that you are much better than those who may be of a lesser kingdom, but who may be more benign and less malicious and less harmful? There are many animals upon earth who are vegetarians, who do not harm other parts of life, yet man does harm other parts of life and his fellow human beings. Somehow the certain routine of animal life, though you know that those animals do not have the intelligence that you have, bears a stamp of integrity that is no longer found in certain forms of human life, where there is cruelty, where there is genocide, where there is murder again and again, as Cain killed Abel, and the blood is spilled upon the ground. Thus you see, beloved ones, sometimes those who have manifested great evil in the earth are cast into the bodies of animals. And you remember Nebuchadnezzar, who did eat the grass for an extended period of time, like the cattle. So you see that evil consciousness is more evil in this age, for the presence of fallen angels, first in humans and others who have become their underlings. And then, ultimately, this consciousness has been passed on to certain aggressive forms of animal life. Thus, I bring you to the level of the astral plane, where undines abide to keep the purification and the balance. And I show you a certain glimpse of yourselves, a certain glimpse of the planetary body. How many people upon this earth do you really know who are not prisoners of something, whether of base desire, whether of their own desire for money, prisoners of their own state of consciousness, prisoners for they cannot fly as the birds, prisoners for they cannot consciously leave their bodies. I show you this, beloved, so that you will understand and ask yourself the question, do you desire to continue to be a prisoner when you are present in the very heart of life, when the bowl of immortality is your abiding place, when the great ovoid of life that is a part of God yet surrounds you, yet within your very own psyche you are yet prisoners of the past ages, of past relationships, of past interchanges. Who then can say, I am free? Your Holy Christ self can say, I am free. Your I am presence can say, I am free. You can say, I am freeborn, and I am gaining my immortality. But until you have mastered all elements of being, you are yet the paltry prisoner of self, and hardly better off than the animals you see roaming wild and living out their life expectancy. Thus, beloved, when you look at the reality and you look at the timetable of your own lifespan, it is well to consider just how determined you are to have that mastery of all planes of self and levels of being. Consider the fire body. Consider the body of the air element. Consider the physical body and ask yourself the question, how can you think you are free when you are yet in mortal form? Your answer should be, but we are spirits, and we soar out of the body at night, and we move among the immortals, and we journey to their retreats. May it be so, may it be so, may it be so, and not wishful thinking. May it be so, beloved, for this truly is the tracking of your star, the creating of a pathway through the skies whereby you can arrive at higher etheric octaves and know out of the prison house of the body etheric realms where you once were with Lord Maitreya and great adepts and bodhisattvas of Maitreya who now are in the higher octaves of the etheric plane, foregoing their ascensions to return for a coming golden age under Maitreya that they anticipate. And so there is a stillness, there is a hush, beloved, as the Buddhas in the higher octaves also bow to the hierarchs of the elementals, even as we bow to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. For we recognize the interchange, the mutuality of service that we bear, bringing the minds of the highest souls of the earth, among which we account not a few of you, to the level of the Buddhic mind, to the level of the Christ mind, to the level of the mind of such as Melchizedek and Zarathustra. You have the higher mind of God. You are God-free beings. But you have allowed yourself, that the portion of yourself that is the soul, to be imprisoned here below. And unless that element be liberated, beloved ones, you will not liberate yourself or any elemental anywhere upon the planet. Thus consider yourselves out on a limb, perhaps floating farther and farther apart from the original mothership. Consider yourselves in a state when it is absolutely essential that you pursue that wholeness, both for yourself and for all evolutions that you might succor and heal and care for and liberate. I place a key in your hand, and this key is on a chain, a very heavy chain. I place it in your hand. that if and when and where, at some time and any time in the future, you find that you have stepped into an old prison cell, such as Philos did in his Atlantean embodiment, and the door is shut, and you have no way to get out, you will have this key, beloved, that I am empowered to give you this night. It is not a small key. You cannot lose it. It is heavy. Once you take it and use it to unlock your own prison cell, the prison cell of the mind and of the heart and of the solar plexus, the prison cell of many levels of being, then I say, when you are the truly liberated man, woman, at all levels of being, take this key, go forth, unlock doors, unlock the doors of those who are imprisoned by fallen angels, unlock the doors where elementals suffer and cannot do their work, for they are imprisoned in the curses of the fallen ones. Take the key, beloved. The key embodies the path, the teaching, and all that you know from ancient times as far back as Sirius. Some of you go back a long, long way, beloved. Thus you have the key, and the key to the kingdom is love. The key to the kingdom is sacrifice. The key to the kingdom is surrender to God. The fearlessness to turn over your very own soul to Almighty God and trust Him with it while you work out that karma. Use the key, beloved, for at subterranean levels and at the very basements of the oceans and under the oceans and beneath the beds of the oceans, there is elemental life. There are undines and salamanders, sylphs and gnomes, yes, beloved hearts, the sons and daughters of God. Hold that key, for I have given it to you this night. Yes, Neptune's locker, you have heard of it. Yes, you have heard of it. It is the opening of the depths. It is the opening of the place of retreats that are in the etheric octave, yet congruent with the center of the earth, and places between the center and the upper crust of the earth. So know, beloved, that you have come to this earth on a mission. Use the key. Unlock the prison house of souls by writing, by composing music, by finding new ways to lead the soul to that interior point of the mind where the seed of Buddha is sealed. We are Neptune and Luara. Know then henceforth that undines, whether 10 or 100 foot high, may move among you and may be in charge of many areas where there is hurricane, where there is storm, where the seas rise up and overtake the land and overtake homes and peoples. Know then that mighty undines working under us and the Elohim of God have dedicated all of their lives, a life that begins and ends, I remind you. They have dedicated what they are and who they are to your victory. I ask you, beloved, can you do any less but offer to them your life for their victory and their immortality? No. You have what they do not have, that threefold flame, yet they trust, yet they delight in the resurrection flame of their Lord and Savior. And there is no argument among them as to who that Lord and Savior is, Jesus Christ. And Maitreya and Gautama Buddha and Sanat Kumara and Padmasambhava and you and you and you. In the mighty action of the trident that bears the emblem of the fleur-de-lis, I am Neptune and Luara, Father, Mother of the undines of Earth.